Hi, Ravina. I would like to introduce first our editor at EBCLearning. He's Pradyuman Purohit, and he would also be part of our discussion and interaction for today. And the second half of the webinar would be the session would be taken by Pradyuman himself. So welcome you all, and I'll just begin this session now. Welcome everyone to EBCLearning. A very good evening, and today's webinar is on career with the corporate law firm and the EBCLearning CII Upskill Diploma in Advanced Corporate Law. And today we have with us Ms. Ravina K. Sethia, who presently works with the competition law practice at Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, Delhi. She completed her LLM from the University of Cambridge in 2018 as a Justice Pratibha M. Singh and Trust Scholar. Prior to that, she graduated as a silver medalist from Jindal Global Law School in 2017. At present, apart from her work at SAM, she also handles content at her forum, a non-profit platform connecting women in law. She has recently co-founded the Apiji Vijay Sangha and Rani Aruna Kanwar Foundation, which aims to work towards women, child, and animal welfare. Great work, Ravina, and welcome to EBCLearning. So now what we have done is we have divided our discussion in two parts. The first half will be taken by you, Ravina, and you will be focusing on the trajectory of the corporate lawyer's career, and we'll be delving into the details of how it is to work at a corporate law firm. You will helping us, our audience, to explore how candidates may build their CVs to increase their chances of applying to tier 1 firms and guide them on courses and extracurricular activities that may enhance their knowledge of practical legal concept. And the second half, my colleague and editor, EBCLearning, Pradyuman Purohit, will take you all through the upcoming course, that is the Upskill Diploma in Advanced Corporate Law, which is starting on 15th April. Now, this is our most extensive live course on corporate law. One of our exceptional courses, which is taught by industry experts and professionals. Very much rigorous nature, and we'll definitely take you ahead and covers all theoretical, critical, and practical training in corporate law. More info will be provided by, I would say, none other than the person himself who has conceptualized the course, Professor Pradyuman Purohit. Now, we at EBCLearning offer both skill-based and foundational courses, which are very much rigorous and comprehensive. We provide both academic, and we focus on mainly on the skill-based training as well. As I've explained, all our courses are rigorous and they have been presented with the high-quality videos. We do offer all these courses on demand, and they are self-paced and instructor-led courses. Now, I would like you to take you all to the website first, and give me a moment. I'll share my screen. So when you log into EBCLearning, so you land upon this page, and as I've already explained, that we have various courses on our platform, and on your left you can see the topics which are there and the types of the courses. Here we have instructor-led path, and also we have the self-paced courses and the talks, competitive examination, and the courses which are basically law school oriented, again very rigorous in nature. Then we have legal skill and practices courses. So all the list is available here, and you can go on the search word and find the course which you want to study. And then we have various courses on platform like limited liability partnership. Contract law is again a very extensive course which our EBC has built up. It has got various modules containing partnership, various modules on contract law, essentials, negotiable instruments, etc. And also we have the advocate on record examination course, again 2 live batches of. We have already done that in the last year, which were very, very successful. And then we have the filing of insolvency petition, insolvency addition, practicing mediation, transacting mergers and acquisitions, taxes, handling check bounce cases, how to create a will. And this one is one of my favorite one, consumer protection law, in which we have another updated version as well by Dr. Pratima Narayan. And also we have the corporate law essentials. Corporate law essentials, again, we have got 5 modules, very extensive course. And the mother of all the courses, which we are going to start on 15th of April, will contain all the important aspects plus the practical aspects of the corporate law course. And then we have creating a privacy policy and corporate assets, valuations, negotiable, directors and key managerial persons, contract law essential, in which we are discussing the free consent, illegality, and public policy, an introduction to CLAT, and various other courses. Now, the mother of all the courses, that's what we have been focused. We would be focusing in our session, which is second half of the session, is on this one, that is the EBCLearning Upskill Diploma in Advanced Corporate Law. So this is what we will be discussing in our next segment. But before that, I will just hand over this virtual podium to you, Ravina, and let's have an interaction. We'll keep it more engaging and interactive, and we have with us Pradhiman Prahoit as well with us as a speaker. Over to you, Ravina. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the lovely introduction. My name is Ravina, and I work at Shardul Amarchand Mangaldas, New Delhi, which is one of the largest corporate law firms in the country and worldwide. I currently work with their competition or their antitrust team, where we handle aspects which are dispute-oriented, like litigation-oriented, but we also do merger filings and review transactions on a daily basis and do a lot of advisory work in relation to the same. So I've been asked to sort of speak about my life at the law firm and what it is to really work at a law firm. So when I started out and I joined as an A0 straight out of law school, one thing that I noticed is that they do not expect you to know things from the very beginning, which I think is very important. As law school students, we feel very daunted often that, how will we handle things, or how will we know what to do and what is the right thing to do? So it's important to know that their expectations are also quite aligned, and they make it a point to conduct routine training and make it a point to ensure that, they are taking the effort to build your skills as you go along, and that there is an environment where you can learn, where things are done in a systematic manner. The second thing that I noticed as soon as I entered is that the structure within any law firm is very, it could be very hierarchic or it could be very teamwork oriented. But in either case, it is very rare that you will be able to do something by yourself completely from start to finish. More often than not, it is going to be a system where you may prepare a first level draft, and someone who is more senior to you may review it, provide their comments, and guide you on how to make it much better. And this is the process through which you learn over time. You learn things that are important to put into such documents and how you can respond to it in the most effective manner. The next thing about life at working in a firm is that there is a lot of deliberation, discussion, and internal strategizing, which is very important because law firms generally deal with matters that are very high level and high stakes. Therefore, more often than not, and more often than what's reflected on paper or in a filing, a lot of work goes on behind the scenes in terms of discussing strategy, what one must add at what stage in a submission, who must one brief in terms of external counsels, the negotiation strategy to be adopted, how valuations work, various aspects, and especially how to align expectations when you're working with clients across the board, across jurisdictions who may not see eye to eye on a particular point, but need to, work together to close the deal. So a lot of it is behind the scenes management, and your main job, I think, as a lawyer in a firm becomes not just contributing, your legal mind and thought and making a work product better, but also managing people at the same point of time. You become their sort of, person Friday of sorts, to run to for any little doubt or any little, clarification that's required. So a lot of the work involves this behind the scene as well, which you may not necessarily see, upfront reflected in documents or in filings or in, meetings, etc. The next important thing I think about working with a firm is that they entrust you with responsibility over time. So it isn't a place where, for example, it isn't a structure where from day one onwards, you will be doing everything from start to finish, as I mentioned. You will be doing a certain aspect of the job. but you will get more responsibility and more control over time once your seniors have been able to trust you more with work, once you've been able to understand the requirements of a particular work product, and you've had enough experience doing that under someone's guidance itself. That is the reason why you need to do at least around 4 years in an average law firm to be able to become a senior associate, and then maybe another 3 years to become a principal associate, and maybe then another 2 or 3 years before you can be considered for partnership. So the grooming and the training is extensive. It is very high level. Another important aspect is the attention to detail. Because more often than not, if you're working with a firm, you are going to work on high stake matters with demanding clients. You will often notice that as compared to your peers, perhaps doing litigation or working in chambers of a particular lawyer, your work is going to be very detail oriented. It's going to be full of nitty-gritties. It's going to be based on review of 1,000 documents, running what we call red lines or black lines to see changes made in your document by someone else, real-time sharing and feedback, immediate review, shorter time frames in terms of deliveries, and just higher overall expectations in terms of having the most best possible quality work product overall. Because it is a situation where you must understand that the client is paying their money to get not just the best possible legal advice on strategy, but also the best possible execution of that advice. So, they do not tolerate things like typos or long sentences or things that, do not connect with one another. There is a lot of focus on brevity, shorter, crisper sentences, making statements where every statement has a particular use or a meaning, not giving out unnecessary information, and keeping your content crisp, precise, and with a view to make sure that the end product conveys its meaning without confusing its key audience, which often could be not just your clients, but in the future regulators who are people working in government jobs, sitting at various tribunals and commissions who may review your documentation. And at that stage, it's very important that your documentation and paperwork is clear enough that they know the intention behind the transaction. They know, the nitty-gritties in an easy manner without getting complicated, which if that happens, complicated for you, because they may require you to make filings or more disclosures or cooperate with them in terms of completely sort of unpacking the transaction for their benefit and understanding. So your drafting and your strategizing at that initial level is very important, to the extent of even after the transaction is closed, for the sake of regulators or people who would review it even in the future. So I think this sort of overall covers life at a firm or what you do day to day. But the key aspect, I think, that why a lot of people are really here is the question on how to really get there. So at the outset, it's very important to know that there are various types of law firms in India today and many, many options to choose from. You can opt to come to a full service law firm, which has multiple practice areas where you can choose to be part of, either a pure corporate team or a regulatory team or even a disputes team. You could also decide to today join a more niche law firm which works on only certain aspects. For example, they specialize in IP law, or they specialize in, for example, digital markets, or even sports law, or, there are different variations today where people are focusing their energy only on a specific aspect and not across the board services. So there are many options to choose from, and depending on the skills that you pick up as a law student and your area of interest, you can often apply to various places based on that skill set and based on where you see yourself in the next at least 5 years. How to get there is important as well. So what I would suggest and what I think is the best possible way to know whether or not you are the best fit for a firm and whether or not they are the best fit for you is to try and secure an internship with that firm. Now, often with larger firms, it is a big struggle to be able to get an internship because of the number of applicants that they have on a rolling basis and the limited amount of spots. One advantage that you can take and the benefit of being part of this webinar and the EBC family is you can upskill yourself and make sure that you have an edge beyond other applicants. For example, by having a deeper understanding of certain concepts like valuations or director positions, or even how certain regulatory environments work. And you can use that to your benefit and pitch yourself to the HR in that manner through your cover email and explain how you may be a better fit and better resource to help them as compared to any other law student. This could definitely increase your chances many-fold of being able to secure that internship. Another possible way of getting the attention of HR at firms or partners at firms is to be able to start contributing academically from a very early stage. So one possible option, for example, is that say you do an upskilling course and you learn something about the role of directors in certain companies or the liabilities of directors in certain circumstances. You can take that concept, work on it a little bit more, and write a blog post for it, for example, or a research paper. And you could post that on your LinkedIn page or promote that link or even add it to your CV so that whenever someone's reviewing your profile or comes across your profile, they perhaps get a better understanding of your skill set and how you may be better fit for a certain role. Doing that, for example, may also lead to unexpected opportunities coming your way. There may be someone interested in that area of research and they may reach out to you for your contributions further. So such courses and upskilling activities really do make a sea of difference. Then once you've sort of gotten that internship, it's very important to be alert, to be helpful, to be a better listener than a speaker, to understand what the team really needs from you at that point of time. Often we see interns come in and they are keen to help, or they do things in a basic manner, but they aren't able to really contemplate and understand what is the end goal of what I've been asked to do. And I think asking yourself that question is very important, because it's only when you know the end purpose of why you've been asked to sort of come and contribute is when you can in fact do better, give you a better output, in fact, come up with a proposition maybe even different from what has been suggested and really impress the people around you. And to do this, it's important to try to have conversations with, junior associates who are not very senior to you and who may be willing to help you and, help you in a manner that they explain a particular transaction to you without disclosing confidential information. Or if you've done good work, be able to go and tell a partner that you've been able to contribute well, and even help you secure a follow-up internship or an interview at the end of the day. So it's very important to keep those contacts with those associates while you're interning and come and keep asking them what you can help with, understand the nitty-gritties of the matter they're working on, and be able to diligently help them in a time-efficient manner. One thing you will see while working in a law firm is that your timelines are really strict. You will have to turn around things within, very short timelines and incorporate comments at, breakneck speed and be able to deliver work products within, absolutely phenomenal time ranges. So it's very important to understand what you really need to do and the outcome of that action to be able to meet those deadlines and timelines and be the most helpful resource you actually can. So that's really important during an internship. Another additional point is that if you're ever interning and you notice that there is a dearth of work at the time, which happens sometimes with certain teams, for example, close of the year or December, etc., which is when law schools are off, one good thing that you can do instead of thinking that you're wasting your time and you're not helping on deals is to go and speak to associates and find out if you can help them with, pure research exercises. Because at firms as well, there is a requirement to submit, PPTs or research papers or practice notes a lot of times. And any associate or senior associate will be very happy to receive your help, in that manner to be able to help them meet those contributions. Such an activity could even be beneficial to you because it could help you learn more about a certain practice area or a more practical concept that you need not necessarily learn out of law school. And you can use that and help them with that research, but also come back and write something on your own for it, without disclosing, of course, any confidential information or on a different trajectory to what you've given to your senior at the firm. those exercises will really help you upskill, use your skills to further better your own understanding of a concept, and help put your name out there with respect to a particular subject area or a matter, etc. So that when people they immediately want to research on a point, your article could come up on Google, and even if it's a blog post, it could help someone come to an answer regarding a legal proposition much faster. So do those things when there are, lower activity times at firms, and don't think or don't be disheartened because you haven't come at the busiest time of the year. That won't make such a difference. Then another thing while you're interning is it's very important to constantly take feedback from the seniors or associates you're working with. Once you have continuous feedback from them, you can use that to be able to better your next work product or better what you're going to submit to them in the future, because they will also appreciate that you've come here to learn and you've come here to really understand the skills that are required to grow here and, benefit them while becoming a better, resource yourself in the future. So definitely do that and take on that proactive role, because that will really help you grow and develop in terms of your personality as well. Now, getting the internship can also happen in different manners. For example, a lot of people reach out to associates or they reach out to people who are working at the firm through LinkedIn or email, etc., saying, please help me secure an internship. However, often than not, especially with a very big law firm, that doesn't necessarily lead to a positive or fruitful outcome, because even an associate can only do as much as forward your CV to the HR. And then it's the HR's duty really to sort of filter through that CV and figure out if you're better suited for the firm or not. So the key thing to do before, reaching out to people and, frantically applying for internships is to first upgrade your own skill set. Make sure your CV is something that they just cannot ignore, that if you reach out to anybody, they will be driven to help you because you have that merit and you have that focus to be able to help them out. That's really, really key here. Another possible option that you can sort of take is to apply to a smaller firm or a more niche firm to begin with, secure an internship there, and once you've gained experience there, then apply to a larger firm. Often that helps because, larger firms then realize that you're not coming fresh off the boat, that you have some experience, even in terms of practically understanding application of the law, and not just based on, how much you've done in a textbook during law school. Because the work that we do at the firm, while it has some association and connection to what we study at law school, and conceptually, yes, you can always, take from what you learn in law school, there is a lot more practicality involved to it. And that's something that you can only learn either through very specific upskilling programs or through your actual internship or while actually working on the job. So if you've done enough internships or if you've had that edge to, be able to upskill yourself and prove yourself to be a little different from the others, securing that internship becomes much easier. The other things you can do in terms of CV development and in terms of, really making sure that your CV really stands out, apart from obviously academics, is one blog post. Like I told you, they don't take a lot of time. They are 1,500 to 2,000 words at max. You can keep providing them on a rolling basis. There are many blogs today that will be willing to publish it. The other thing obviously is research papers, but they take a lot more time and you need to really delve into a particular issue. So I don't know how feasible it is for, a lot of people to do it. But if you can and if you have the time, it's really beneficial to be able to put out 1 or 2 research papers at least. Another thing that may help you is having a little bit of perhaps, competition experience. So it could be either an ADR competition or a client counseling competition or a moot court competition, etc. Because that just shows an HR person or anybody you're applying to that you are keen to learn new things, that you're keen to apply yourself to new subjects of law, to new concepts, and, learn from that, really research and delve into one specific problem area, find a solution for it, and, really try to, take that concept to its absolute end to be able to come up with answers. And they really appreciate that, because that's what we do on a day-to-day basis. Every transaction we do is like a glorified moot in a way only, where we deal with different clients and the transaction, come up with answers, make sure it's fail safe. So it's pretty much the same thing at the end of the day on a smaller scale, if you do any of these type of competitions, and it really helps in your CV overall if you do it. So I think that's broadly how to sort of get there and how to sort of make your CV better. One other option or availability is to, of course, directly apply for a job. If not, get a PPO, sit for a day zero placement, or get in touch with a partner directly once you're in your 5th year to try to set up an interview. To be able to finally secure a job there. Now, these, while are options, they are not the easiest options to pursue, because often firms prefer people who have interned with them, because that really helps them see, that candidate through and through at least twice, if not more often, through an internship. And, they are also sure that the candidate really likes the place they're working in, which is why they've come again for an internship. They really want to avoid, getting people involved who will, not be able to take the pressure, or who don't know what the work culture is like, and who may want to leave very soon. Because from their perspective as well, they are sort of investing in you as a resource. They are giving you skills to, better your own work products. They're guiding you through your seniors, and helping you in every possible manner. Therefore, because they are making that investment in you, they expect that, you are sure about being here in the long run, at least for a couple of years before, you decide your next move. For example, when I applied to internship, my PPO was actually not with SAM. It was with a firm called Trilegal in Mumbai. I first got my internship at the end of my 2nd year or beginning of my 3rd year with a corporate team. And I went and did my internship, and I genuinely enjoyed what I did and enjoyed working with the people and the culture there. So I expressed my interest to come back for a second time. And based on my reviews, the people who work with you in an internship, they always give a review. They have to submit some feedback to HR, and HR collates that feedback. And then based on that, and based on your own interest, they reach back to you and they ask you whether you would be happy to come for a second one. So like that, I went for my second internship. And within 3 weeks of my second internship, I had a short interview and I was offered a job. And, I had decided based on 2 internships and tries that this is going to be a good fit for me. This is where I really do belong. And the people I worked with also saw me through, an extensive period of time and figured out that, yes, this girl will be able to manage with us. Unfortunately for all of us, my scholarship came through and I had to leave earlier, but they were very understanding about it and, kept the door always open for me. Even at SAM, I made a very, factful decision to really shift, because I wanted to be in Delhi and practice on this particular niche area of law. And I applied here when I was coming back from Cambridge, and things worked out. We had a short interview. I think they also realized that we are a good fit. And based on that, I joined as soon as I came back, and I've been here since. Now it's been almost 4 years. Working with the same people and growing and learning from them, and really taking guidance and feedback along the way to better my own skill set and be more useful to those senior to me and be a guide to those junior to me. So, that's really the cohesive growth and development that you see in a firm that you may not necessarily see in a counsel's chamber or in litigation, where each person is really for themselves, or the guidance is very limited and you are sort of thrown at the deep end to figure it out. This is a little bit more handheld and a little bit more structured. So if you like that type of work environment, it's nothing better for you, if you're trying to reach out and make a career in this aspect. I think that's pretty much covers what life is like really at the firm. But if you have further questions, you can definitely reach out to me and connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm very happy to answer them. Thank you so much, and thank you, EBC, for having me. If you have any other questions, even right now, I'm very happy to answer.
Chanchal, any questions from your end would be appreciated. Okay. Right. Then I'll abuse my position as one of the persons or panelists who's supposed to speak and put down this question to Ravina. You did talk about internships and the entry barriers and how the atmosphere of the law firm is like. What we want for our viewers to actually know what an average day looks like in your life. When does it start? And when does it end, and how it ends on a good, what happens if it ends on a good note, what happens on a bad note, but what all you do throughout your life, whether throughout your day, and that's your work life, and just take us through that. What are the issues or what are the things that you do? Is it only litigation related work related to CCI, or the advisory work that you do? What are the things that you do related to merger control? What is the frequency of what kind of work comes to you in a typically competition law or antitrust practice? So it would be hugely beneficial for everyone to know your 9 to XX schedule.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. I didn't want to scare people on the timing because I thought they're just kids and why scare them. But no, I'm just kidding. So a typical day in my life looks like this. I think we start around 9:30 a.m. every day, but it's not a fixed schedule. It depends on work. If there is a client deadline, you can sometimes wake up earlier for a call. And if there's nothing urgent, you can sometimes even start off a little bit later. So it starts typically at 9:30, and you start by looking at, whatever matter you're working on, what the deliverables are, how much you've been able to do. Has the client sent you new documents to review? Have they sent you any comments? Do they want any follow-up on what you've already sent them? Based on that, you typically would discuss with your team and say, this has come in. Then you would typically discuss the allocation of the work. Who is going to review? Who is going to update? Are both people going to do it together? What is the deadline by which I need to send this to my partner or my senior to review? And you work according to that timeline. So you typically do that, on a particular draft, and you turn around things as and when, you're able to finish them on that deadline. Then you give it to your senior. Now, the senior will take some time. They will review that work product, and they will then give you their round of comments or their changes, or suggestions. Then you sort of work typically on incorporating them, having a discussion around it. And then finally, when everybody internally is aligned on the work product, is when it's actually sent to the client further. So that's the sort of cycle of any work product, irrespective of, the nature of the subject matter. It could be disputes, it could be litigation, it could be corporate, it could be anything. But this is how typically, you would work. Now, in the middle of the day, there could be sporadic or, scheduled phone calls and strategy calls with clients or external counsel, or even law firms on the other side on a transaction. Those involve you sitting, taking notes, sometimes giving your input on, various factors where you are at on a transaction, discussions on strategy, on whether to include something or how to approach something, etc. So those are another very typical part of your day. And more often than not, you have about 2 to 3 calls a day to also tackle with and deal with. The day kind of ends depending on the work. So you could have really good days where you're home, or you're sort of at least being able to log off by 7:30, 8ish, or it could be a longer day where sometimes it takes you longer time because of the deadline, in question. But it always depends on the work. It always depends on the deadline that the client has set eventually, and how you need to address it best. Because at the end of the day, you are a service provider and we work in a service industry. So, client is king in a lot of cases, and, you cater to those timelines because there is a genuine commercial urgency for them, often than not, to be able to, get clearances and approvals. Now, specifically from a competition perspective, I do maybe more dispute-related work, or we call it, antitrust work, during my day than merger control. But it keeps changing. It depends on the client who comes, your availability at a particular time. So how staffing works in a firm typically is that they see what you are currently working on. If a new matter has come in and they think that you have some time to allocate to it, or you have a specific expertise in that area because you've done transactions similar in the past, they will typically allocate that matter to you. And if, say, your plate is full, you're not able to manage, or there's someone with maybe more experience and time than you, then they may give it to that person instead of you. But they try to make sure this way that everybody has an equitable amount of work to do. So in that light, it depends, if you have the time available when a matter comes in, then you are staffed on it. So currently on my plate, I have a lot of typical antitrust, abuse of dominance, cartelization type of matters, where we typically work like, anyone works in disputes, where we try to defend allegations, we brief external counsels, there are hearings, briefing notes, exactly how disputes work. And, we take it like that. So in competition law, the way this stuff works is that typically someone will file an information, which is like a complaint to the Competition Commission. Then the Competition Commission will, look into that complaint. If they think at an early stage itself, it requires inputs of the, person who the complaint is against, they approach that company. Then that company files its preliminary response to the complaint, and it tries to explain upfront, how that complaint may be bogus, or the allocations don't make sense, or it's not even a competition law issue. Now, upon reviewing the answer of both sides, the information and the response to the information from, the alleged perpetrator, the Competition Commission will pass a prima facie order. The prima facie order will then decide whether or not these allegations deserve merit and they should be further investigated into, or should the matter be closed here and there. If they decide that the allegations have some merit, then they direct the Director General, which is like, the investigative arm of the Competition Commission, to look into the allegations. Then this Director General will often, send notices to parties involved, do his investigation, get the answers, carry out independent research, interview people and depose people, and collect all this information and give his report. Once he gives his report, all concerned parties are given an opportunity to respond. And based on after the responses are sort of done and the replies are in, then typically there is a final hearing, like litigation. Once the hearing is over, you get a final order from the commission. Then if you're happy with it and, every party is happy with it, it is over there. If you're not, someone can typically appeal it to the NCLAT, which is the National Appellate Tribunal. And their proceedings continue. It's again the same thing. There's an appeal filed. You reply to that appeal. There's a rejoinder sometimes. There are arguments advanced. Then a final order is placed. And if you're not happy with that also, you go all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the exercise continues till there is a finality. In our experience, because we're a niche subject area and there are so many layers, the matters reaching the Supreme Court are more limited as compared to general dispute or corporate matters. However, each one of them that reaches there does determine a very key question in law or practice and is decided in a more holistic manner, setting, precedent for time to come. So that's how typically our sort of channel works. So when you do, proper antitrust law and when you deal with proper, dispute related work, this is the trajectory you follow. So you are the one working on the drafts and briefing the counsel, making notes for them, compiling cases, doing research, typical how you would do for disputes. On the other hand, now, if you're doing a merger, you are working very closely with the corporate team. So it helps a lot to be able to have some basic understanding of corporate law concepts, of how a transaction typically works, what are the papers involved, what are the steps involved, what is a term sheet, what is binding, what is not, etc. And you sit with the corporate team, you review their corporate documents, you often even give feedback before finalizing the documents to make sure that there is no provision there which may be contrary to competition law at least, or whatever your practice area is. And then you sort of give the client advice on whether or not their transaction is notifiable to the Competition Commission. So currently the way it works is we have financial thresholds. And if you meet a financial threshold, by way of asset and turnover figures, then the transaction becomes notifiable to the Competition Commission. Now, the way you typically notify a transaction is by way of filing a form. If it's a transaction which is relatively, low stakes, or where the parties involved do not have high combined market shares, then you typically file a Form 1, which is a shorter form. and where the market shares may be higher if they, combine together or the transaction goes through, you typically provide more information, which is called a Form 2. So you sort of keep working with the clients and you work with various teams and law firms to be able to plug in information into these forms. They typically relate to the activities of the parties, the nature of the transaction, the value of the transaction, the object and purpose, how the transaction will affect market conditions. Are there other competitors to deal with that to be in the market after the transaction is over? Undertaking an economic analysis of the transaction and basically proving that the transaction will not have an adverse effect on competition at least. So that is your typical work. That even involves sometimes meeting the regulator face to face, having calls and conversations with case officers, explaining aspects of the transaction that they may not necessarily understand, and sort of helping the parties with final approval. So that's basically the long and short of what I do, how my days, and the type of work that's involved.
I think thank you so much, Ravina. I would say it was such an elaborate, tips and tricks what you have given us to the audience. Now, I would say on the long working hours, I think that's what I can see from, sitting from here and when you were actually, having an interaction with us. I think if we enjoy our work, it really doesn't matter how many hours one has put in the day, right? So I would say one should not be scared on the timings. So more important is to enjoy the work they do. Now, I would like to ask any tips for the viewers how to build their CVs to increase their chances to when they apply for the tier 1 firms. And other than the typical criteria like area of interest, what are the talent and skills are required for oneself to be, ready for a corporate firm? Over to you, Ravina.
Yeah, as I already mentioned, I think one very important thing is to be able to help, read yourself and upskill yourself, above and beyond what you learn in law school. Because, law school and in the Indian education system currently is not structured with a very practice-oriented format. Most law schools will not tell you how a particular merger goes, what are the steps, what do you do day in and day out, what's really your job. They will tell you, here is the concept, this is the section, and they end the chapter there. So you need to upskill, you need to start reading, you need to start, evolving your own skills independently, and make it a point to maybe write a short blog post or share your knowledge or research with a wider audience, so that tomorrow when someone is reviewing your CV, they know that you genuinely have an area of interest that you like, you've genuinely done some work to explore it, and you've genuinely tried to put yourself out there even as a student to be able to share your thoughts and invite comments and feedback. People really appreciate, when someone steps out of their way to learn more, grow more, and, themselves gain the expertise that's required to be a better resource or more skilled person as compared to their peers. So that's something which is not typical, but it's something that, you should really do as a law student, especially today, given the pandemic and the way things have changed. There are so many podcasts available or so many blogs available that, you should really make it a point to, write short posts and, do small podcasts and really submit it and put yourself out there more often and use your knowledge to, get more traction and put those links in your CV. So any HR who's looking at your CV cannot just put it down. They have to open the link. They have to see, okay, what has this person done? Is it on a contemporary issue? Because more often than not, what we do in a firm is sometimes something settled law or sometimes things that we also explore along the way. So we ourselves look at blog posts and what other people have written and find guidance and answers. So you would be really surprised that, if you've written something and it's, come to someone's use, they may sort of reach out themselves to you to be able to help. So I will narrate an incident because it's a true story and it's actually happened. And, that's why I think it's important to know. So I was doing this moot court competition in NLU Jodhpur way back in 2014 or 15. And, it came to my mind and someone was guiding us. They told me, you make a table of cases on this particular subject matter, which is very brief, concise, to the point. It will help you during your oral submissions, and it will also be easy for a judge to follow because, the proposition has both sides. So it becomes confusing for someone sometimes to know what is the right approach. So if you have your table of cases and your note ready, you can always show someone that this is the basis from which you got it. So I followed the advice. I did exactly that. I made the table. I went, I showed it in my oral submissions, and I was offered an internship at SAM for this team that I currently am at, but I couldn't take up the internship because I had got my PPO at Trilegal. And believe it or not, they actually took my email address and we exchanged contact information, someone who's now a partner. And they actually told me to email that table of cases that I had made because it was really useful to them for a matter that they were doing. So you never really know, And when I applied this time around 4 years ago, they all remembered me from that era. So, you can leave a mark if you make an effort, and there are so many ways and, unexpected things that could happen to you. So make the effort and do try and upskill yourself and do those courses and, write more, research more, and, you never know how it will help you.
Great, Ravina. So it would have been a great, very well presented. We are very much impressed. All our audience. I'll just, I'll just hand over to Pradyuman now. And thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Ravina. I think it's an appropriate moment where we sort of can pre-announce that our course on competition law is going to come up very soon. And we already have a course related to antitrust, not law, but on competition economics, which is beautifully done by my former colleague and perhaps Ravina's Professor Yugang Goyal, who is with Flame University now. And do check out on EBCLearning.com the course on competition economics. And we very shortly are going to release a course on competition law. From there, and I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce to everyone EBCLearning, Confederation of Indian Industries, that is CII, Upskill Diploma in Advanced Corporate Law. I'll share the screen with everyone so that you can follow where it is and describe some features of the course, why it is important. And I'll try to tie up everything that Ravina discussed with how we are trying to address those issues in our course. So, yep. So when you log on to ebclearning.com/courses, it will lead you to this particular page where all the courses are listed. As Dr. Aanchal has already introduced these self-paced and some of the instructor-led courses that we had. The mother of all courses, as said by Dr. Aanchal, which is the EBCLearning CI Upskill Diploma and Advanced Corporate Law course, is a 6-month course. And we are starting it from 14th of April. And the early bird offer expires somewhere around 15th of March. So please avail this opportunity as the seats are filling fast. And we only have limited number of seats for students to come. Now, as it's a 6 months course on corporate law, we have covered all facets of corporate law, and we take a student or anyone who's applying to the course, whether they are their first year students and they don't know anything about even company law, even they can enroll in this course and upskill themselves, because we take them from various levels. For example, we do give them the basic knowledge of laws, and then taking them to compliances and the actual practice and the strategy of it, right? So what we are trying to do here is to give a student or anyone who's enrolling this course a complete exposure to the workings and different different sectors of corporate law, whether it is just simply company law practice, general corporate law practice, or whether it is insolvency practice or antitrust practice, or mergers and acquisitions practice, right? So one of the other important feature is that throughout this 6 months, it is not going to be a course where people would come and deliver and that would be it. It's quite a comprehensive and rigorous course where you have to go through somewhere around 75 live classes, and that would involve an engagement of 8 to 10 hours of reading per week. And every class or every session that we conduct have a set learning outcome. And on the basis of those learning outcomes, the assignments are curated. And here the assignments are typically curated accordingly how you have to do anything that you will do as an A0 in a law firm, but not limited to that. So there are other things that our distinguished faculties who are associates and partners in various law firms would share with you that how to approach a particular kind of things, right? So it's a very comprehensive program where we are taking it from elementary to the most advanced level and try to cover every facets of it, whether it is related to insider trading or whether it is related to competition law, M&A, capital markets, etc., etc. Right? And most importantly, contract drafting as well. Now I'll sort of share with you the other, the class schedule that you can look at up, where all the classes are divided into parts, and you have access to more than 17, 18 ebooks from EBC Reader platform, and access to cases from SEC Online that you're going to that will be useful for you while reading the full judgments. At the same time, we also have on our platform these self-paced courses, 18 self-paced courses where you would learn the basics of the law, and so that whenever you're going into the session, you would have that preliminary understanding, and then we can take you to a higher level and the higher understanding, as well as the actual practice, application, and the compliance aspect of it, right? So it is not just a course where you typically learn just about what happens or what is there in the corporate law, but actually here it is learning by doing. That means we also have like a team of chartered accountants from FinVox, where a decent amount of financial literacy will also be given to you. For example, when you're doing a corporate asset valuation, so you would understand the process of it, right? You need to look at the schedule of the company law and then make those kind of assessments. So looking at a financial statement, looking at books in general becomes also important, right? So these are the self-paced courses that I was talking about contract law, on contract drafting, on LLPs, on learning due diligence essentials. Due diligence is something that you'll do in a law firm day in and day out, right? So we try to create mock simulation exercises of doing it and giving you on feedback. Typically a thing that you will get in an internship experience, but here, because of a very small cohort, you will actually learn from the best and more of an hands-on training. So that's what we are aimed at. And one of the important things here is that the entry barrier is sort of reduced, because sometimes people do apply for various internships and they are not able to get their foot in the door. We bring you in front of you. We are partnered with various law firms, and that's also a continuing effort. So we have quite a few law firms already on board where they'll give you a preferential treatment in terms of the interview is concerned, where you can prove yourself. You'd also get a recommendation letter from us and a certificate qualitatively explaining your skill sets and what you are able to do in these 6 months. The classes would be typically in the evening, and we have a long list of instructors. Some of you know Dr. Achal is there, then a lot of partners from Link Legal, and there's Aditya Singh Chandel from AZB, people from Shardul Amarchand as well, and a lot of people who have written books with EBC. For example, Arman Patkar's book on insider trading is some sort of an authority within the circles now, is also part of the teaching cohort. So we have gotten the best of the best people to do it for you. Badrinath Srinivasan's course on contract drafting is one of the most viewed courses on our platform, and he himself would be teaching you the basics and the provisions related to corporate law and how contract drafting is important, and the exercises around him. So we do have list of faculties from various dynamic backgrounds, and they will take you through and was pretty much handhold you and take you through to the end. Apart from that, as I've already mentioned, there are quite a few law firms already on board. You can see on this our link. You can also find the link in the description while you're watching this, right? And please try to explore. If you have any questions, do come to us and ask any one of us, drop a message. That would be very helpful, and we'll reach out to you in no time. And please enroll this course or share with anyone who'd require or want to excel or create a career in corporate law and want to make it a big, because that exposure would help you. The kind of exposure you perhaps need to even get into a law firm or you get into a good internship, because then you can justify on your application that, okay, you have some and more than some, I think, decent amount of knowledge once you complete this course. And so that as an intern, you are not a liability that someone needs to be tutored, that what all things are needed to be, taught. So that means that it increases your chances to get a callback internship, and that may result into a PPO. So all those kind of things. So that's all from my side. And thank you to Ravina as well for kindly agreeing to do this session with us. Back to Dr. Raj.
Thank you. Thank you, Pradyuman, and for taking us through this upcoming course, which is starting on 15th April, Upskill Diploma in Advanced Corporate Law. I would say to have a solid foundation start is to upskill. And great advice and tips, Ravina. I'm superbly impressed. I'm sure our audience is also upskill your corporate law expertise. I think being a good listener and being a helpful resource is a great advice for anyone who is doing an internship. And what an awesome presentation, Ravina. Very impressive. I'm sure it's very useful and informative for all our audience. Thank you all for joining. Thank you, Pradyuman. Thank you, Ravina, once again. And upskill with EBCLearning. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you. See you all again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Ravina.
Thank you.